Hi everyone, so I'm gonna show you how to make a scrunchie. Right now I'm in my basement and the material that I'm working with is a jersey fabric, and the problem I'm having with this fabric, it keeps curling up, which most jersey knit fabric does. So I figure instead of me marking it and trying to get it straight, it's just best that I fold it and um, iron it. So I'm going to show you what I did. So right now I measure the the length of it. I want it to be like 22 inches, and the width I want to be like 4.5 in width, because once I sew it together, I'm gonna sew like a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So right now I'm just measuring the length to see how much I could get out of it, and based on the measurements, I could get like 3 strips of fabric. So right now I'm gonna fold it 3 times so I could get it as evenly as possible. And I think this is like the easiest and fastest way of doing it if you're working with a stretch or jersey knit fabric that tends to curl up all the time. So right now that's what I'm doing. Making sure the fold and creases are matching perfectly and evenly. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm gonna cut on the creases where the fold is, and I'm gonna make a notch and just snip it at the edge of the corner so I know how I'm gonna fold it before I iron it. And I'm gonna also do the same on the opposite sides. Now that I already did the same thing on the opposite side and made a notch or snipped the edge, I'm gonna fold it again in half. So, and I'm gonna even it out. You're gonna see what I do. I'm gonna match the notches together or where I snip it, and just fold it in half so I could get that perfect line crease. So when I iron it, I'll be able to cut it evenly. Okay, now I finished folding it in half. I got it line up together with the notches or where I snip it. So now I'm going to take my iron and fold on the fold so I could get that perfect line. So once I iron it, I could be able to cut it in a perfect line. Okay, now that I iron it and I got the perfect crease where I want to cut it, I'm going to open up the fabric and I'm going to cut on the lines where I iron my crease. Okay, so I finished cutting the other one, so I'm gonna cut it again. I'm gonna cut it in half, just like I did with the first one. It's kind of difficult for me to see the crease, so I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna fold it again and place it on the iron board so I could see the crease much better, just like I did the first time, making sure I line it up with the notches. Okay, so you just finished seeing me cut the fabric in half. Now I'm folding it in half because I'm going to get ready to sew it. And right now I'm putting the pins together to prepare it to sew. And you want to sew at least half an inch. Um, if I can't get it, my really idea is to sew like 1/4 of an inch, but if I cannot do it for 1/4 because the fabric keep curling up, then I will try to do at least 3/8 or 1/2, no more than 1/2. Okay, so right now I'm at my sewing machine, so I'm gonna begin to sew the fabric. Ideally, I wanted to sew 1/4 of the inch, but because the fabric is difficult and it moves and I have a difficulty getting to lay flat, I'm gonna do as close as I can to get it to 1/4 of an inch. If not, maybe 3/8 or 1/2 inch. Okay, so right now I fold the fabric in half, I sewn it, and what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to use this tool and I'm going to turn the fabric inside out. Okay, so right now I'm going to take this elastic tape and I'm going to measure about 9.5 or 9 3/4 and cut it. Okay, now that I've finished measuring the elastic, I'm going to take the tool and place it inside the fabric and pull it inside and tie it into a knot to make the scrunchie. Okay, so now I'm going to take the two elastic and I'm going to place it together and put it in a knot and tie it together. And then I'm going to take the fabric, place it together with seam allowance and seam allowance, fold it, and sew it again on my sewing machine. Okay, now that I placed my fabric together, I'm going to go over it and do a straight stitch. And before I start the straight stitch, I'm going to stitch it and go forward and to close the ends and back stitch it again once I finish sewing the fabric. Okay, I finished sewing the scrunchie. I'm going to show you what it looked like. I backstitched the top and bottom part of the scrunchie so it wouldn't unravel, and you get a clear view of what the stitch looked like, and that's pretty much it. I also want to add, if you use this on your home sewing machine, it may break your needle because it could get very bulky when you have to sew them together at this part. So I just want you to be mindful of that.